Okay, thanks. I assume everyone can hear and see my presentation. So, yeah, great. So this is not um, specifically about the data call, but this is obviously a very closely linked subject. So I'm not going to take up too much time because the focus of this seminar today is the data call, but it's important to have an overview and a bit of background to where we're at with the writing of the standard observation protocols that feeds into this data call. So, the current status, almost all of the standard observation protocols are now at a first draft kind of stage and are under review, or have been through a review process and are now finished. And I'll put finished in inverted commas. A few have been, by agreement, postponed for various reasons. So basically, the process is that as soon as an SO protocol in review has received enough feedback, these are then taken back by the authors and moved into a finished folder. And that includes the SOs that are included in the call for data, because these were prioritized for obvious reasons. There will be still the possibility for more revisions before they actually come to be physically applied at elter sites, if this is really needed. So the current team coordinating the writing process is myself and Teresa at SLU, and we're going to extend our involvement into 2025 to some extent to make sure that this work to complete these first final versions is seen to its conclusion. So we don't really want to have general comments coming in about every possible small thing, but if there's something, a real showstopper fault that is discovered, or you really have to point out, then there is still the potential for revisions to be made before field work begins. So don't panic about that if you do find something. A little bit more long term, looking into the future. Again, the idea here is not that these are going to be carved on tablets of stone and never looked at again for the next 10 years. The idea is that these protocols will be continuously assessed and revised in the future. Because after implementation, of course, we will learn things. What works well, what works less well, what could work better. And this is a planned service area within the RI. There are already expressions of interest made, and it's a little unclear at the moment, I think, exactly when that service is going to start. But hopefully there won't be much or any gap in terms of responsibility for the SOs between our task to get them written and then this service of maintaining and updating them over the long term takes responsibility over. There were some SOs which were discussed at length, which didn't make it into this first round of finished versions. There are various reasons for this, but I won't go into exactly why this was the case, because there are different reasons for different SOs and it would take too long. But essentially, the important thing to take on here is that these, again, will be looked at again and probably included as part of the first major revision of the SO protocols. So if you react and think, oh, why isn't this in there? When it was in the discussion documents, that's what's happening. We can discuss the reasons, and we're happy to answer any questions for why things may have been postponed and what the plans are to make it concretely happen in the future. But that is the idea, that everything that was postponed is not forgotten. It is taken into account and included in the revision. So that's just looking to the future. So the protocols will be hosted on the elter webpage. There is already a page there for standard observations. It's just an overview at the moment rather than a link to the actual texts. The first draft versions that we're working on now, with incorporating feedback with the authors, they will be published via the Zenodo repository by the end of the year. So that's a deadline that we had to provide this first set of preliminary final versions, if you want to call them those, at the end of the year. So that will be on Zenodo, and then we will move on to put them onto the elter webpage in due course. So as I mentioned, the review process is still ongoing. We have mailed hopefully all of you several times about this, but there is still just about time to contribute to the process. The work is done in Google Drive. There's a QR code there and a link that you can get from downloading the presentation later. If you can, please do go and look at any of the SO protocols which you have expertise to review. It'd be much appreciated, but please do it quickly. Time is running out. We're coming very much towards the end of this initial process. But yeah, scan those codes, go and have a look, and do please read the instruction file, the read this first file before getting stuck in, if you do have time to do that. Then, as I also mentioned, once they've been through the review process, we then move them into a folder, finished protocols, which can also be viewed in the Google Drive. The link here is also provided. So one thing to mention that has caused some confusion sometimes is that the SOs are in many cases, or most cases, bundles of standard observation variables. So there are both the prime and the basic method, and the methods for all of the variables included in the SO bundle are put together into one document. So you will find, for example, an SO protocol for meteorological data, and that will include sections on the variables that are included, relative air humidity, temperature, and so on and so forth. There are not separate documents for each of these. They're included into the bundle document. So yeah, the precise format for the metadata and data specification for the SOs that aren't included in the data call are still under development, but will be ready shortly. Certainly well before you need to submit any data. I've also made this overview table, which is maybe helpful to get an idea of the progress for the different SO bundles. So this just gives you all of the SOs, the description of the methods and the variables included, and then a link to the most recent version of the document. Now that may be a review version, in which case you can just click on that, go there and leave comments, or it may be in some cases the finished version, which has already been through a review process. So you can then go and have a look at that as well and see what's included. We can also see on this table which protocols have been postponed and which ones are delayed. There are a few that are being worked on. For various reasons, the authors are running late, and they will be completed as part of this first batch of final SO protocols that will be included together, but they're not quite there yet. So they're coming soon. So you can see where we're at with the various SO protocols at that link given on this slide. So which are the ones that are included in the call for data? This information has gone out before. I won't bother reading through them all, and I think Holger also has a slide covering this. But these are the ones that we prioritized to make sure that the protocols were in a good state and that the associated requirements for metadata and data and the terms used were all at least finished to the extent it was possible to get them finished in time for the call for data. Yeah, so they're in a good state, which is why we were prioritizing them. I would mention that there is a possibility that some minor changes in, for example, the method or whatever might still be made, but nothing relevant to the call for data for these. So the variables, the standard names used, the units and so on, everything that you need for submitting data for the call for data in accordance with these protocols, that will not change now. That's finished. So in terms of the relationship between the SOs and the data call, of course, the data call is about legacy data. So the data that you're being asked to submit is, by definition, not produced according to the SO protocols. But the purpose of the submission process and the call for data is that it's also a trial run for the RI. So as much as possible, the process of submitting data is going to be very similar when you have data that's produced according to the SO protocols. And that was to get people submitting data used to the process, to get us used to the process, to iron out any issues, to realize where we can streamline the process of ingesting data and get everything in line and harmonized. So the work that's done for submitting data under the call for data will also make submissions in future according to the SO protocols easier. There's a lot of overlap between what you're doing now and what will be required in terms of regular data submissions to the RI once that's all up and running. I think that was my last slide. Yeah. So that was all I had for the presentation. Happy to take any questions or comments that you may have.
If there are no active questions to the SO protocols right now, you can also take the rest of the webinar to think about it and post your questions in the chat, and we can take them after the second presentation. If there's no pressing, urgent issues at the moment. Okay. Thank you very much, James. By the way, I'm sorry I forgot to introduce you. You had to introduce yourself. But then I think we can move on to our next presenters. This time I remember to introduce everybody. Here we have Holger Philbrook and Ellen Souza. Holger is a coordinator and data manager for SITES, the Swedish Infrastructure for Ecosystem Science, and he's the task lead for the Elter Data Mobilization Plus 7.3. He's responsible for the Elter Data Call and the upcoming Data Mobilization Week, which is scheduled for the 24th of January. And the aim is to coordinate the communication between the SPCs and the system developer team, and to make legacy data flow from Elter partners towards the Elter data repository. And Alan, he's a postdoctoral researcher, data scientist, and data steward based at the University of Helsinki in Finland. And he is the working package leader at the Elter Plus Work Package 14 for virtual access. Welcome.
Thanks. I feel like James already nicely explained everything, so not much more to say anymore, but I still want to, of course, take the chance for the next maybe 15, 20 minutes to present you a little bit or remind us about the timeline, the tasks at hand, the task in the future, and also Ellen will give a summary from our data call that was launched in early November. Okay, let me share my screen. Is it working? Yes, all good?
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Perfect. So I want to remind us a little bit about the timeline. Since the last SPF seminar, where we relaunched the marketplace and also introduced sort of the ideas of the upcoming data call, we have come some ways. So the Elter data call has been launched on the marketplace. The response, which Ellen will introduce you or inform you about, has been quite great. So I think we reached quite a large community, also with some targeted campaigns by Ellen, myself, and the Elter head office. So now the data call has been launched. It is closed since mid-November, and Ellen and I have been very busy the past weeks to summarize all the input we got through the applications. And the final evaluation is actually now done. So all the applicants that are here in the meeting, you can expect an email in your inbox in the coming 2 days with sort of an offer from us to support you. But we can already inform everyone that we are planning to support everyone financially who asked for funding through the Elter data call. So that's, I think, good news. We really try to distribute the funds equally and fairly across the communities. So that's something that you can look forward to. And then the next upcoming event is really the Data Mobilization Week. The upcoming SPF seminar in mid-January will really focus on introducing the concept of the Data Mobilization Week, which will happen in week 5, late in January next year. And then, of course, the whole project will continue throughout 2025 with the aim to really have data flowing towards a central digital asset registry and elter data repository until the end of October 2025. So we are sort of in the middle of everything that's happening right now. The standard observation protocols are about to be finalized. We are really working on the data templates. The system developer team is working on the ingestion portal all in parallel, and there's a lot of things and a lot of moving pieces right now, which we will want to inform you now about. This slide is basically identical with what James presented just a couple of minutes ago, but I still want to remind us there is, I think, more than 70 standard observation protocols. Is that correct? 70 something. We are focusing on mainly 6 within the data call. These are, Teresa, could you?
It's 60 something now. Like it got
60 something. Okay, we reduced thank God we reduced them a little bit, but at least 6 are in the main focus of the data call. So let me just quickly run through them. Soil inventory and characteristics, vegetation composition, surface water, algae, formerly called chlorophyll A, but there are more parameters involved here right now. Meteorology, soil water content and temperature, physical chemical characteristics, standing waters. And one addition which we discussed before we launched the data call quite a bit was the other data. And Alan and myself and also the central data mobilization team felt it's very interesting to get this feedback from the community to see where there's need for additional data to be mobilized and what this data would look like. If you look through these different, thanks Cremena for the heart. So it's really something that I'm also kind of passionate about, more station-based program data and see what is there, where the needs are across Europe. If we look through these standard observation focused data types that we want to mobilize, they're covering most of the spheres. One additional one is the social sphere, but we're in contact with the sphere leads there and try to mobilize some more authority-based data in a separate effort with the system developers. So these are really focused on the data sets that are sitting at the SPCs at the station level. So that's why we chose them. And I think for now, Ellen, if you're ready, I can hand this over to you, this part, and I will sum up at the end a little bit more. So Ellen will now walk you through the data call details. Quite exciting.
Yes, thank you, Holger. So first of all, I just want to give you all a brief overview of the applications that we got, the expression of interest that we got from this data call. So we got 54 unique submissions, which I think is great. We were quite happy about it. And these are from 13 different countries. They are in this dark green color that you can see on the map. And the blue dots are all the sites and platforms that submit the data. So you can see that we cover most of the European continent from east to west, from north to south. So we were quite happy with this. Of course, we would be happier if we got more, but then we would end up in more struggle to finance all of the applicants and good data that will come. So can you move to the next? Yes. Yeah, so again, just a brief overview of what we got in the expression of interest. Most of the data sets that were offered were from the meteorology and the vegetation composition that both have more than 40 different sites willing to provide this data set. And on the other end, we got few but not so bad amount of offers from surface water and physical chemical characteristics of standing waters, with both with less than 15, but still a good number. And you can also see on the graph that we have the other type of data that was quite well represented, and we need to dig into that and see how this will look like. But it offers a good opportunity for us to explore the different types of data set that can come to Elter in the future. Yes, please, the next
And
one.
maybe also I can quickly add here
Yep.
that this will also guide our sort of priority for future data templates that might be sitting in the standard observation protocols for these other data types. So if we can identify reoccurring requests here, we will definitely use that as a priority for establishing data templates from the SO protocols.
Yes.
Sorry, Alan.
No worries. And here we have our bank, the piggy bank from Elter. The goal is to distribute the funds among all applicants, as Holger initially mentioned. So everyone who requests money will get some financial support. So this was kind of our priority. We want to contemplate everyone and reward and fund the work. So you can move to the next one. But of course, we have our piggy bank sweating that we need to make some uh, cuts to actually be able to fund all these 54 applications. So essentially, we need to come up with some system, and we put a budget cap on 12,000 euros per submission. So this is the maximum that any submission will get. Next one, please. Yes, and of course, while we were trying to decide how much each one of the submissions would get, this was a very challenging exercise because some of the requests were quite fair, others were a little bit over the reality that we got. So we need to find creative solutions to evaluate and distribute the money fairly. So we came out with these four different parameters that were all listed in the guidelines that we will use to evaluate the submissions, and we actually use them. So these four are the number of standard observations, the data readiness, the data length, and the elter priority areas. So you can move to the next. Yes, and for the standard observations, and again the next. So we came out with some logic that the more standard observations is offer, the more money this submission would get, and the less number of standard observations offer, the less money that we'll get. So as a maximum, we have 6 standard observations in this data call. So all the data that were considered other were not included into this exercise, but all the submissions actually gained some score for this that serves as a base pay for the budget distribution. So next we go to the data readiness. And for that, we also came up with some metric that we actually attribute points based on the values that were possible to offer in this form that you all fill it out. So essentially, the more ready the data is, more points would get, and the less ready, less points. And this, unfortunately, some of the applicants didn't put some answers on that, and they get 0 points for those. And of course, these were possible to add multiple solutions, multiple answers, and for that we did a simple averaging, and then we get these points, and those that have the readiness points above or equal to 7 got some bonus from our budget allocation. So the next point that we evaluated was the data length, and this is essentially the range of dates that you were promising to submit data. So we count all these lengths for all the standard observations and that were offered, and then we count by the number of days. And because we have really a huge heterogeneity among applicants, we actually have to make a point system, and we have to standardize the values to vary between 1 and 10. So because we have like very long data sets provided and others not so long, but all were standardized to 1 to 10 for clearer understanding, and those that were valued higher, higher than 7 or equal to 7, also receive a bonus, meaning that they are providing longer data sets. So the next point of evaluation that we use was the elter priority areas. And this was based on this paper that was recently published by Onemenos and et al. 2024. You have the link there, and you have this figure where we can see the priority areas for elter, and these are ranked into 5 different levels. And if you go to the next slides, please. And then we actually attribute a point system as well. So based on the priorities, and the higher the priority, the more points the submission got. And then from that, from those that have 8 or higher, so essentially the high and very high priority areas also receive a bonus. So all this. Can you change to the next, please? All this gave the final budget allocation that is formed by the SO base pay plus the data readiness bonus plus the data length bonus plus the priority area bonus. And this actually is how we distribute the money. So the next one, please. So just a reminder, this was also already mentioned, but this is a pilot exercise that exceed our expectations in terms of number of submissions. And we are actually gaining a lot of experience from this exercise, and this all will be used to adapt the future development for the elter data ingestion in the future. And hopefully we can get more data to be mobilized in the next years to come. I think that's all from me, and now I give the word back to you, Holger.
Yes, thanks, Alan. I might just add one little thing here that for the budget distribution, the number of SOs has been the main, basically guiding factor for the money. So the bonus or the boni were sort of minor contributions to the total offers we will send out to the group in comparison. So the number of SOs was the guiding factor, but we also financially support the stations that want to only mobilize other data. Yes, and maybe just a quick sort of fun fact or interesting fact on the side is that the total amount of funds requested through the elter data call exceeded 700,000 euros, and we had to squeeze everything into our budget of 400,000. So you can imagine that it has been a little bit challenging to be fair, support everyone, and still have enough money for the ones who really want to contribute with major efforts. So I hope we can come to an agreement in the coming days, or at least before Christmas, with every one of you. Okay, so let me dig a little bit into data templates in light of the data call. Initially, we thought we will present examples of our data templates for the different SOs, but we felt that this is not the right forum for that. We have the Data Mobilization Week coming up, and we also have a year's time from now to connect with every single one of you who wants to mobilize their data and walk them through the different templates, the different steps required. So I reduced this here, even though it is a lot of text on the slide, to sort of the minimum information I really want to provide you with right now at this point in time. So what we are working on with the system developers and also with the protocol authors, together with Teresa and James, is data templates per standard observation data type. So the 6 different data types, or the 6 different SOs that were presented by James and myself on one of the first slides, will be split into 2 templates each. So we will have one template, a clear template for the data, where you really can put in your data, meaning the parameters and units based on the controlled vocabulary we are establishing together with the SO protocol authors, and location reference. That's the only thing that goes into this data template for the specific data. It will be very simple, very clear, full names described here, so there should be no questions regarding how the data should be structured. And then we have a separate template which is related to the metadata. there you will put in, or we will request information on your station related to the DAMES ID, the methods used, the references, everything related to the specific standard observation data type we are requesting. So there will be unique for each of every single one of them. And these templates are based on the elter field specifications. The link, I now know I should have put a QR code here. Sorry, Teresa. But there's a link to Zenodo in the presentation. It will be available for everyone. You can look into this publication done by Johannes Peterseil and Sarah Geiger. They have been putting in great effort into establishing a breadth of, or basically a data template, an elter data template for covering all standard observations. So it is fairly complex. What we are aiming within this data call is reduce it to the mandatory information for each data type related to the specific focus standard observations to make your life easier, to make our life easier for the data mobilization itself. So don't worry, you can look into this field specification. It is a bit, to be honest, it is a bit overwhelming at first if you look at it, because it really tries to cover, or it aims to cover all standard observations within one template. That's not what we are aiming for within the data call. You will have, again, individual ones for each data type you want to mobilize. When it comes to the data formats, we have had discussions, especially Ellen and myself, because we have little sort of different ideas on data structures, which is always interesting to have these discussions. But we also bounce these ideas with our system developers. And right now, it looks like we will accept long and wide formats for your data to be mobilized. Certain data types within the standard observations will require a long format. So that's just something I want to mention here. But this will should show you that we try to provide flexibility in terms of how your legacy data currently looks like and how we can embed it and ingest it into an elter data repository. Talking about the data repository, I also briefly want to inform you about the ingestion portal we will use for the mobilization of the data. This is basically your tool that you can use for uploading your data. It's a file-based web interface. Mooney and Tom Rayborg and his team are currently working on. I think also Martin Abrand is in the meeting. He's very much involved in that work as well. And it's really a tool, a web interface that we try to establish in a way that a lot of the elements that are requested are pre-filled by using certain drop-down menus for your specific data types you want to provide, and to simplify your uploads. So it is a fairly simple form to provide your generic metadata information that's not covered within the metadata data template. And then you can basically just add your two files and upload it to this ingestion portal. And from there, it will then be represented in an automatic way on a digital asset registry in an elter data portal. And you will receive a PID for your data publishing. That's further down the line, that's in the future, but that's something we all have to work together during the next year. And to get there, there are two important things that I want to highlight here. We have the Data Mobilization Week coming up. I mentioned it a couple of times already. And we have the so-called SLU Help Desk, which is myself. So I'm there for you to support you throughout 2025. If you have questions, all the applicants within the data call, reach out to me. We can always schedule a Zoom meeting, or if you happen to be in a close surroundings, we can also have maybe some in-person possibilities to just sit together, work on the data, work on the templates, work on the data structure, and move the data towards the ingestion portal. So just to summarize, we want to make it simple, easy to understand, and really what also Alan mentioned before, make this a useful learning experience for us all, guiding the future research infrastructure. Okay, maybe just quickly, this is really my last slide, and then I think we have some time for questions afterwards. I want to give you some sort of idea, 2025 and beyond, where are we right now, what's up next? So one thing you can already put in your calendars is the next SPF seminar, 15th of January, same time, Wednesday. It's called the second part of the data mobilization. And what we want to do in this meeting, it might be a short one. We have to talk to James and Teresa if they also want to present some aspects for the standard observation protocols. But this is a seminar where we will introduce to you the idea of the data mobilization week. and point you towards the data templates that are then hopefully available on the Elter website. So there we will introduce the whole concept of the Data Mobilization Week. This is an important event for you. And then after that, basically the 2 weeks after, there's the time scheduled already. You can mark your calendars for that as well. Week 5, 27th to 31st of January, the Data Mobilization Week. We will have open time slots available, which you can book through a terminal. It can be either 1 hour or maybe a couple of hours. Probably we can only open 1 hour for each applicant throughout this week, where we can really talk through all your concerns, your issues, things you want to share with us. And we will have a backup team on call from the system developers, Teresa James for the standard observation team, Ellen and myself as the data sort of stewards, and Johannes as the Elter Oracle, who knows everything about the things that are ongoing, to have them as a link into these time slots where you can ask your questions. And it is basically running you through the data templates, showing you the ingestion portal, how things work. Basically a tool for you to use. And then continuation of the SLU help desk throughout 2025. The project ends at the 31st of October. That's our aim. That's the sort of final date where all of you who will receive support by us financially and or just as a support in general to upload the data towards the ingestion portal.